Welcome to the Liberating Beauty Podcast. I'm Rebecca, your host, and together we'll explore the spirit of beauty, how beauty invites new possibilities, enlivens us to inhabit our innate creativity, and connects us more deeply with ourselves and with each other. We'll have conversations and share reflections that invite you into a frequency of gentleness, truth, and mystery. I'm so glad you're here. If you find the Liberating Beauty Podcast meaningful, please consider supporting our work. To donate, follow the link in the show notes to the Together in Beauty website, home to this podcast, along with other offerings to accompany you on your journey of spiritual becoming. Please subscribe, rate, and share this podcast wherever you listen. And as always, thank you for your support and for being here with us. Welcome back, everyone, to the Liberating Beauty Podcast. I'm really glad to have you here with me today. I feel triumphant to be here and to be starting this episode with all of you. And I'm saying that because yesterday was one of these ordinary days that kind of knocked the wind out of me for no apparent reason. I say it maybe because of being such a highly sensitive person, and as I become more comfortable in inhabiting that part of my identity, I'm just struck by how much I feel in what are considered fairly normal, arbitrary challenges of everyday being in the world. I wonder how many of you can relate to that. Just the being in the meeting at work, or having that, frustrating conversation with your kid. I had one of those this morning, and noticing just really at a cellular level how incredibly draining that can feel in the body and nervous system, even if, in my case, even if my mind registers whatever has happened is not a particular consequence, that it still can really knock me out. So when I thought about what I wanted to share with you this week, in a sense, it's almost like a meditation. I don't know if I was gonna say intention. I don't know if it's an intention, but a meditation on this feeling, and coupled with this other part of who I am that always believes in the underlying goodness and benevolence of all of the experiences that we have, even the ones that are uncomfortable. Even yesterday when I was feeling knocked out and then resentful that I was knocked out, physically, and needing to lay down in the middle of the day when I didn't want to, and all the things. And I remembered a conversation that I had a few months ago, I believe it was, about a few months ago. And I was speaking with a very esteemed elder who works in the space of conflict resolution, and just noticing as I watched her work how incredibly grounded she seemed. And that was my sense of her energetically. And I thought, how does she doing this? How has she learned to walk through so much volatility, and to have such a sense of elegance, poise, and substance simultaneously? Like, what is she doing? And I basically asked her as much, in so many words. And she said something to me that I will never forget. She said, "Rebecca, I've been softened by the fire." Whew. softened by the fire. Like that, it, as you can tell, the comment left me absolutely speechless because I've been reckoning with this idea over the last couple years of softening and noticing the ways at different times in my own journey where I have softened myself as a way of buffering, contracting, placating, and that not feeling very good. But also, kind of fighting with this another that I am fighting with, but this other reality of also feeling true, how good it feels to soften. And it's the opposite of contraction when we loosen, when there's a spaciousness to be. It's such a divine feeling. And so to hear this very, in my eyes, very esteemed person talk about the softening, and it's happening not because there's been an avoidance of the fire, but through the fire itself, I thought, oh my goodness, I think there's something in that for me this week, probably for the rest of my life. But I wanna just dig into this a little bit because, like I say, no doubt there are others. How could you not right now feel so much with everything that is happening at all the levels in the world? And so here's what it is. I want to reclaim the idea that two things can be true simultaneously. I want to reclaim the idea that we might be in whatever situation we find ourselves, no matter how seemingly small or inconsequential. I'm in a meeting, there's a lot of turbulence, there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of challenge, or something of dire circumstance, and I think about people all over the world right now reckoning with survival. No matter what it is that we're reckoning with that is bringing us into some kind of challenge, I believe in the underlying goodness, the underlying softening that is also happening at the same time. And let me be clear, this is not about masochism and running toward fire or glorifying conflict or challenge at all, but it is saying that it would be a kind of a false dichotomy to say, or it'd be a false claim to say we can only soften when the conditions are gentle, when I've had ample time in whatever way that I find joy, pleasure, or community or well-being. But actually, there is something in the moving through the fire itself that aids in that loosening and that softening. And this is really an important lesson for me because there at so many times in my own life, I've seen myself do this, and the messaging often is when there is conflict, when there is volatility, we need to manage that heat. We need to put up so many boundaries. We need to shelter from the storm. And there are times when that is absolutely essential. But I think there can be an overcorrection where we believe that if we can avoid the heat, then we won't get burned. And so I'm really reckoning with that this week, and the importance of staying with also what feels uncomfortable. And along with that, recognizing another lesson from this week, which I struggle with, is to be softened through challenge also has a very high energetic cost I say that, you can hear it in my voice, like, there is a cost, there is an energetic, mm, none of the words quite feel right, burden, toll, it sounds just negative. There is an energetic requirement. It takes energy to soften, let me put it that way. It takes energy to soften, and at times, I have felt resentful of that energetic cost of softening, because it's like, "Oh my god, seriously?" To allow this transformation, this unfolding, I must be I have to lose out on something. I have to rest more than I want to, and in this capitalist culture, if we're not doing something, then what value do we bring? Like, all of those narratives that tell us that if we're not producing, that we're not, worthy of being in some way or form. And yet, I'm reminding myself, if the intention is to be softened but not flattened, softened and not shattered, but softened into something more true and capable of withstanding fire, and finding whatever version of eloquence and authenticity is mine, then that for me requires a lot more rest. I don't think I'm the only one. It takes a lot more rest to be able to go through that and to integrate the learning. So I want to share this with you as you are walking through the world. The more I get to know you, listeners, as you reach out to me, as we connect, I'm learning there's a lot of folks who share some similar life experiences, identities, whether you are also a highly sensitive person or a neurodivergent person, as I am. There is a way of being in the world that we inhabit that, if we can linger in what it means to be ourselves and nourish, whether it be through rest, our own permission to ourselves, through art, through loving, whatever it may be, there is a moment, and I believe it's happening now, that it's underway, a softening into a deeper, truer, more beautiful reality. So I want to just take a moment to just sit with that and ask, where in your lives are you experiencing any kind of exhaustion, whether it's physical exhaustion, existential, emotional, you know, some mix thereof, or something else. Where are you experiencing that? And where might you be fighting that feeling? Where may you be curating, or perhaps even over curating, with good intention, but nonetheless protecting or buffering yourself from fire, or making yourself so small that you feel like your flame resistance, if there's less surface area, you won't get burned. Where are you doing that? And what would it be like to believe that we can soften into the reality of what it is? Because there will always be volatility. There will always be challenges, and that's not pessimism speaking. That's nature, right? I mean, that's the way that things happen in nature. There's always predator and prey. Like, this is part of who we are, and that's not a problem. So how do we learn to stay with the natural variation, fluctuation, and challenge of being human, being kind of incarnate, and softening to whatever extent feels in service of who we are? And there's no rushing a softening. There's no rushing that, right? So where in your life are you exhausting yourself, and maybe even continuing or heightening that exhaustion and trying to fight or curate away the fire? What would it look like to let your body soften into the reality of what is in this moment? I invite you to take those questions with you into your day, into your week, and to share back with us what that softening has felt like, and also where that has been challenging. Because no doubt there are profound challenges in opening ourselves to the softening. I look forward to hearing from you and in the next week and in the next days, or however long you continue to integrate these questions. I hope that you will be well. Take care. Thank you for listening to the Liberating Beauty Podcast. To learn more about the podcast, my work, and how I can support you on your journey of spiritual becoming, head over to the Together in Beauty website or email me at rebecca@togetherinbeauty.com. It's an honor to accompany you on the journey. A huge thank you to our multi-talented producer and co-creative director, MapumbaCilombo. To learn more about Mapumba's work as a producer, sound engineer, and musician, check out the show notes for a link to his website at mapumbamusic.com. And as always, many thanks to you, our listeners. None of this would be possible without the energy, encouragement, and vitality that you reflect back to us each week. Until next time, may you walk in beauty.